welcome back to the actual build series of my lovely acoustic guitar. Now, in this video, I was, and hope I will, be cutting the sound hole, but also trimming the rosette flat, because at the moment it's standing proud because the ebony inlay is deeper than the hole I routed out, and I think so is the laburnum, and this needs to be sanded flat, which should be a fairly simple procedure. But I was going to use my drum sander, and I'm looking at my drum sander here, and you can't see it, but it's just there. Which it might seem a little brutal to put it through a drum sander, but actually it will get a very true surface, providing it doesn't tear out or anything. So I was going to, and you'll notice I'm saying was going to. I'll explain in a minute. I was going to use my little plane, Veritas miniature plane, and just take little bits of ebony off and gradually get down to the spruce, and then when it's more or less flat, then put it through a drum sander, just so that the ebony isn't standing too proud of the surface, because if that hits the edge of the drum and it's particularly proud, it might have a bit of it might fracture. I don't know, I'm just being very cautious here. However, while I was setting up the video, the same thing happened to this that happened when I initially thicknessed the front, although I suspect it's done it in reverse. The whole front of the guitar has cupped. This baseboard is quite warm. It's quite warm in here. It's 29 degrees because this is a conservatory. It's getting towards summer now, and it can get quite warm in here. And I laid this flat on my work board, and just the fact that the top is exposed to the atmosphere and the bottom isn't, the thing's cupped. It was fine when it was indoors at a moderate temperature. It was completely flat. So if I'm going to put this through the drum sander, I need to wait for it to relax, and I'm not sure how long that's going to take. So, well, let's see how we get on, shall we? I may or may not be putting this through the drum sander, but hopefully at some point I will be cutting out the rosette hole, and I think I need it to be flat for that as well. So yeah, this isn't going exactly to plan, but then this is what happens when you deal with living wood, as it were. A board this thin tends to have a mind of its own when it comes to the balances between the moisture on the front and the back. As I say, this started out flat 30 minutes ago, and now it isn't. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but let's first of all see if we can just take a little bit of the rosette down using the plane. Particularly the fact it's cupped, I've got to be very careful I don't catch the spruce. Otherwise I've got rather more sanding to do than I anticipated. I'm really just trying to take some of the height out of the ebony here. With a degree of success, it has to be said. I have to say, this is the perfect tool to be using for this. I can't imagine doing this with a large plane. It would be a frightening experience, because trying to control that blade to not tip over the edge and into the soundboard would be a challenge. This feels very precise. I don't want to take this down flush with the soundboard because I don't want any chance of biting into the soundboard. But I just want to take it down far enough so that it's not too brutal when the edge of the drum sander hits it. I'm not entirely convinced I'm going to put it through the drum sander at this stage, but I'll see if it flattens out once it's cooled down. Or, well, not cooled down, reacclimatised, let's say. Yeah, I've got down to the level of the inner spokes actually. So it's starting to bite a little, so I think I'm nearly there. This is actually one of my favourite tools. Well, that was pretty straightforward, but I still want to try putting this through the drum sander. I've got a drum sander and I want to use it. So I'm going to go away and do something else and see how long it takes for the guitar top to relax and go straight again, because I can't put it through the drum sander like this because it'll be sanding the edges more than the middle. So every time I breathe I blow ebony everywhere. I ought to clean up really. So I'm going to go off and do something else. Whether or not you'll see that in this video, I don't know. But I just make this up as I go along. See you in a minute. Or an hour, or 2 hours. I don't know. Well, it took 3 hours for the top plate of the guitar to straighten again, to lose its cupping. But by then it was too late. So it's now 4 days later. And we'll give it another go. It's currently indoors. I haven't got it here. I haven't got it lying on any surfaces. Having the one side warmed and cupping again, so I'm just going to put it straight through the sander with its nice cold bed. I hope this goes well, fingers crossed. I'm very pleased with that. You can't from touch, well, I guess from touch you can tell where the abalone is because it's so smooth, but there's no difference in height between the ebony, abalone and laburnum. I'm really pleased with how that's come out. Okay, I've now got to cut the sound hole out, and I'm really nervous about this because this spike here, this all worked for cutting the rosette out, but I was able to nibble at the thing and get my confidence. This has got to be done in one go. If I try to take multiple passes of this, it's just going to end up ragged. And this spike here is really slender and quite short. It's only 5mm long, so it's barely going to bite into the baseboard. Plus, it's so slender, I've cut a 2mm hole in the top, and this has got play, and even as much as 0.5mm out, and you will see it on the edge of the sound hole because it's not going to match up with the rosette. Another thing I'm a little worried about is, because this isn't a plunge, I've got to lower it into the work, switch it on and lower it in. So I've got a little 3mm shim which should bring the cutting bit proud of the work. I can then switch it on, take the shim away and lower it down. But it's this process of lowering it, because it could cut into the edge of the hole very, very slightly. What I'm hoping is that the pivot point is actually the tip of the spike, in which case the cutting bit will be pulled away from the edge, so it's not going to go over. If this was pivoting from the surface, then what's going to happen is the cutting bit is going to pivot up away, and it's going to bite into the edge of the sound hole, if you see what I mean. But I'm hoping that's not a consideration, because I'm hoping it's pivoting from a position that's actually below the level of the cutting bit. Ooh, so let's give it a go. I'll get this mounted and then we'll see how we get on. I'm just going to mark as accurately as I can 3mm in from each edge. There was discussion in the comments about me wanting to use the ebony as the edge of the sound hole, and how I'll actually get a stronger rosette by having the spruce at the edge because there's no chance of splitting, so, or delaminating I should say. So I'm almost grudgingly going to give it a small spruce edge of 3mm. Those are just alignment marks. I'm not going to use a compass to draw it. I just want to make sure that it looks like it lines up, that I've got the spike right in the middle of the hole. Well, I've checked and double checked, and I think I'm just going to have to go for it. I've got a horrible feeling that hasn't gone all the way through. That was 3mm, and the top is less than 3mm. The top is currently about 2.9mm. That's not gone all the way through. However, it is centred, so I am quite happy with that. I think I'm going to have to try and get that out. I don't want to go round again because of getting it centred. Okay. It's hanging on by the slightest of threads. I think my thumbnail will... Some of you are probably going to be horrified at me running a thumbnail through this. It might even be hanging on because of the friction. The cuttings seem to have been compacted. Yeah, I think actually... Yeah, it was actually the cuttings, because it's a down spiral bit. And I think as such the cuttings were being compacted into it and they just held the centre in place. So that is actually a very neat cut. Yeah, I can live with that. Colour me relieved. Whew. That went well, actually. It often does go well, but I guess it goes well because I think about these things and I prepare for it not going well. But I feel a bit emotionally drained, but I've got a good result, so I'm happy. I should say that the top is now 2.9mm thick, and the bit that I used for that was a 1/16 down spiral bit from SuGar. If anybody is following this and wants to try it themselves. But I've got a very nice finish on that. Obviously I have to do final sanding. I will do that when I do final sanding. Let's get some braces stuck on that. But actually I might do some templates first. So we'll see you in the next video. Bye!